Hey guys, I'm going to do another golf clash video for you. It is going to be for advanced wind techniques. It is going to be for Tour 10. This is going to be kind of a rebroadcast because last time, for whatever reason, the audio screwed up. So I'm going to set up a very similar bag. I think this is identical to what I was using before for Tour 10. I do think, Thor is a pretty good option for Tour 10 over Apocalypse. There's no real curl shots that you need in this tour. So I think Thor can be a very useful club, and that's the reason that I'm just going to put it on my bag for this video, because I think, accuracy can be kind of an important factor. Now, with some of your Apocalypse, especially like the 6, I know that you're at 75% accuracy anyway. So once you get to a certain point, it's probably pretty good to switch over to the Apocalypse. But I was just going to kind of work through this with the Thor as I did in that video, just as kind of a good Thor guide for this tour. In terms of Hammerhead, the Hammerhead is going to be very similar to the Sniper here. You're seeing it's almost identical. It just has that little bit of extra power. I can get about 5 to 10 yards extra with the extra 3 yards plus 10 topspin. So definitely good to have that one. But consider, the exact same shots that I can hit in terms of into green and whatnot are going to be, for the most part, identical to Sniper, regardless. And so that's why I'm going to go with that. So let me go ahead. I'm going to clear out a chest here. Let's see if I can't get a good card. It looks like the answer to that is no. But we are going to grind through this tour a little bit. And I'm assuming I'm going to get a lot of replays. Just like last time, there's not going to be a lot of option in terms of finding a true opponent in this tour. So basically just brace yourself for a lot of, replays in this video, which means there's going to be a lot of close shots, especially on certain holes, like one of the ones, those two slopey par 3s, where it just kind of feeds to the hole the entire way. It seems like when you play a replay on those, it just puts the most sick replays on every time. So, I got to be within a yard on that basically every time to give myself a chance. So, expect that. I'm assuming, the people watching this video, you're not going to have to deal with replays. You're going to actually get live people. And I find it 100 times easier to play versus live opponents than it is to play against all these replays. But we are going to go and give it our best effort anyway. So for here, you're seeing that I'm downwind. So with being downwind, I'm just going to try to size this shot up. I do like going to this other fairway here. And you see it's just making it to the fairway there on that other fairway. Now I like to give this momentum to the left to kind of keep it in this fairway when you actually hit this fairway over here. So that's what I'm going to try to do here. I'm going to play about 3 or 4 rings over here. I won't do any real curl or anything. Just try to focus, get as close to perfect ball as possible. I'm assuming that it's going to stop, but it might not. No, it didn't. So, one of the things that you could do to that, I could have took off a little bit of power, or I could have took off a little bit of topspin. But I actually thought it was probably going to stop there. So it's unfortunate that it didn't. But nevertheless, I will show you how to kind of get out of that troublesome situation. That there's nothing wrong with where I put it. Nothing wrong at all, especially if you can hit perfect ball. It's still very holdable. In fact, I find it a little bit easier because you have to play less wind. So sometimes I actually find it a little bit easier. The ball comes in lower with a rough iron, and I find the shot to be just a tad bit easier from the rough. Now, that's all, considering the fact that you're going to hit perfect ball anyway. And of course, they give us wind straight in the face. Why would I expect anything else? So first, I'm going to kind of size up distance-wise where I'm looking at for a landing zone. So here's full, here's half right here, and then 3/4. I'm probably at 3/4 club, and I've found that to be roughly 2.7 per ring. So I'm going to try to keep that in mind here. I'm going to try to put the shot a little bit to the left and a little bit past the hole, and then I'm going to do my 2.7-ish per ring, which will be about 5 rings, and I'll just try to hit it straight up like that. And I was very slow with my reaction, so I'm assuming this is going to miss out to the left here. But you see how it's checking up? That's one of the reasons, that's one of the things I wanted to show you. It really starts to stop a lot faster than you see on the shot trail. It's because it's into the wind. So one of the things you got to consider is you either have to take off a little bit of backspin because it's going to check up when you hit it straight into the wind like that. So you either have to add rings and do an over adjustment. So that's why you saw me lining up originally to where I was to the left of the hole and past the hole, because I knew that the way that wind was pointed, it was going to bring it back. Now, I didn't hit perfect ball there, so you didn't get to see, the full effects of everything, but you could still see the way that, the way I was aiming was relatively spot on, because you could see the way that it came into the hole. And, of course, you see how it checked up, and that is solely because it was like straight into the wind. So you got to keep that in mind when you're doing your adjustments, and you only want to get to a certain point where, like, if you see a lot of ball trail that you're using, like forward roll, you want to basically, assume that that's going to go away when you're playing into the wind, and it's going to be more of a stop shot. So you want to make sure that your bounces, especially like bounces 3 and 4, are very, very tight on the hole and not landing short. And that's what you saw me kind of doing with my correction. Now, the biggest thing was I was running out of time, taking a little bit too much time talking and not focusing on the shot. So I only had like one pass through for that. I had to release rather quickly and try to shoot for the perfect ball. And when I'm running out of time like that, I'm typically just watching the shot arrow to try to get my timing. Now, this is just kind of one of the first holes that I've played today. I've played a couple, but just to get back in the rhythm of the game a little bit, you're seeing me do, not the greatest shot for the very first try. But hopefully let's see what I can do on this tiebreaker hole. Now, I like to, when the wind's pointed this way, I like to go the other way. I think in the other video, you saw me do what he just did, which was kind of that hook backspin shot. I am a big fan of that shot. I really like it, but I kind of tend to go more in favor of what the wind's telling me. So if the wind's telling me it's pushing this way, well, then I'm going to, come up with a shot that's going to use the wind as my curl, as opposed to try to restrict the wind. What he was doing is curling and countering. It makes it a little bit more harder of a correction, in my opinion. So what you're going to see me do this time is I'm going to play maybe about 6 rings for this wind. I'm going to use just ever so slightly curl just to get it. That great ball might end up hurting me. Probably not going to make it back to the hole, but we'll see. Maybe it does. Yeah, you're seeing it shoots out to the right here. And I would have been more in line with the hole. And you see it was ever so slightly curling there. I didn't do very much. I didn't have to do too much there. So I wanted to point that out to you so you can kind of keep that in mind for yourself, is when you're going with the wind there, it's it's kind of a good approach because you don't really have to do anything overcomplicated. Now, my shot would have been really quite good had I hit perfect ball there. So missing that. And again, so that is I wanted to just point out that is a downhill shot there. You were hitting to a lower elevation. So under normal circumstances, I would probably play at mid-club there. I was pretty close to mid-club. I would probably play closer to 2.1 per ring. But since it's down to an elevation, like a lower elevation, instead of going like a usual 5 rings there, I went 6. I went an extra ring because I'm hitting to a downhill elevation. So I just want to point that out for you as well. It's really good to keep that in mind when you're doing your ring adjustments. And the effect that has on the ball is, it's basically like 15% extra wind, more or less, 15-20%, somewhere in there. I played that much more extra wind because it's down hit, like a downhill shot. So just something to keep in mind. And let's see. Okay, so we have another hole here. Let's see if I can't figure this one out. Is he really going to use a globe on this? I'm assuming it would be very easy to hit the green on this hole with a globe. Or a snowman. Snowman would also be a good one. But a little unnecessary. I don't think I have to do all that to reach the green. I think I can get a Titan there. Even with the club I'm using. I think it'd be pretty close. And you're seeing that's pretty close too. But I do have Thor 5 on. I have to keep that in mind. Let me take a look at Titan here. See if this is gonna... I can't tell. It might not make it. Let's try it anyway. Just a little early on my timing there, I'm assuming, unless I get... Nope. I would have needed maybe like a right bounce there to kind of... sorry. So when I did all that curl and then like a 2-ring shank there, it made my shot shoot out to the right there because of the fact that so you saw my ball shoot out to the right because it landed in kind of the little crevice there at the bottom of that hill, as opposed to I would have had to hit the right side of that hill and make it kick back left in order to still hold the fairway there. Now, as many times as I'm cutting this in half, I think this is only going to be like a 1-ring adjustment. So this is really going to come down to, perfect ball here more than anything, because you have to adjust so little for this wind. So it's like hit perfect ball, make the shot, hit great ball, miss the shot. So you saw me hit great ball, I missed the shot. So it would have been nice for us to get to a playoff hole. It wasn't meant to be, I guess. So we'll go to the next. Now, if I would have held the fairway with that wind, I would have easily made the pitch because it would have been, the same boat. You would have just been like straight on pitch. It would have been super easy to make the correction. Just because it would have only really been, pulling it straight back. So you really don't have to worry about, leaving the cup too much, which is one of those good things. So let's see if we can't get another opponent here shortly. Assuming, it's just going to be tapes. And the tapes seem to be kind of 50-50 when you play tapes. Sometimes they get the eagles, sometimes they don't on the drivables like that. So you just never know kind of what you're going to get. And so same with this one. Like, you don't know if you're going to get an opponent who gets there and makes the eagle or doesn't. And the way that I'm going to play this is going to be pretty much full ball. I might take off just ever so slightly. I'm kind of sizing up my second bounce. And again, I'll play, since it's downwind, I'll play about 5 rings here. And then I'll do counter. I'll do that counter that I was telling you about, where I'll try counter hooking it. And I might just take off ever so slightly. Just kind of like right here. And of course, not getting perfect ball, especially missing that far right, is probably going to end up costing me. Look at that. Did not go through that rough whatsoever. That's a little unfortunate. And it had more to do about, getting way over there to the right. If I would have, hit perfect ball or even great ball left, had it more in line with the hole, it looked like it was probably deep enough that it might have got there. So that's just kind of a bad break. But you can easily pitch this in. So I don't want to rule that out as a possibility. I mean, you can... I'm going to show you when you're in this rough. Now, again, I got another straight easy win. So it's not very big deal. You only have to play, less than a yard. But I want to show you. I'm going to go full here, so I'm going to cut this in half. I'm going to cut it in half again, cut it in half again. It's like 4 cut downs. It's like you have to play almost no wind here. If you want to know kind of what I'm doing there with my estimations for the wind, I did do a tutorial video to kind of demonstrate how I've been playing wind. And again, another great ball. This great ball might be enough to hold. It looks like it was. It's because you were really close to the hole, and your tolerance was getting so small. Your bullseye was getting so small. I cut it in half 4 times. So let me put that in perspective for you. I assume that my Nirvana 8 is roughly 1.8 per ring, and I cut it in half, which would make it 3.6 per ring. And then I cut it in half again. It would be 7.2 per ring. And then I cut it in half one more time, and that's kind of where I set up, was about 3 cut in halves, which would be like 14.4 per ring. So if I'm at 14.4 per ring, then that means I had to go under a ring for that adjustment, because the wind was only 11. And I keep getting crap cards. Got Topper, and I got Grim Reaper. I'm looking to get a couple more Cataclysms. That's what I'm kind of hoping for. And again, as I was just mentioning about that wind adjustment, if you want to know more about the wind, the way I was playing that wind, I have a wind titled for rough iron shots and sand wedges and wedges. I have a video specifically set up for this to kind of show you that breakdown. So I don't want to get too much into what I was doing, because feel free to check out that tutorial video. It's very good content in my opinion. Especially, if you find yourself in those mid distances like that, and you're like, well, is this going to play? Is it not going to play? I kind of developed a method where it makes it a lot easier deciding whether or not it's going to play or not. More of a concrete, answer and how much it's going to play. So that's one of those things that I find, very helpful. Pretty good guide. I think you can, all kind of improve a little bit on some wind play, especially once you get to, those half distances where you're just a little unsure of yourself. My video, I feel, can be very helpful for those. So feel free to check that one out too. But again, I want to keep talking a little bit more about, these advanced wind techniques, especially on some of these other holes here. Now notice how I am going to be shooting down to a lower elevation on this second shot here. So I want you guys to, be fully aware of that. If you can't tell, some of the easiest ways that I've figured out to tell whether or not you're shooting to a lower elevation is if you go to take where it says take the shot and you just look, you can see that, some of the resolution of the screen, like the actual hole, will disappear because you're going down to a lower elevation, so you won't be able to see all of the fairway. For example, you'll see a big dip, so it'll be a clear indication. And there you kind of see it. See how the pin goes down below? You can see you're shooting down to a lower elevation. So something to keep in mind. You see here's where max is, right here. I'm going to be setting up very close to max, but I'm also shooting down to a lower elevation. So, this might be one of those instances where I use about 6 rings because, I'm almost at max. I'm pushing max here. And plus, I got to worry about, that shot correction that I've been talking about, the way that it gets corrected, like post wind play. So I'm going to go, 6.5 rings. I'll play it kind of spot up what you're supposed to. And you're seeing it shot just a little bit. Now, I couldn't tell if I was, 6.5, somewhere in there. You're seeing it shoot just a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left. It might have, more to do about that, the way that the ball's reacting with the ball trail. Like I might have landed it very close to where I originally set up before I started playing the wind. But what you're seeing, since the wind's right to left, you're seeing it push the ball to the left, which you're not seeing on your shot trail. So you always have to keep that in mind. And say for a 6-7 wind like this guy has an 8. What I'll typically do is, a 6 wind like that might be like, 1 or 2 bars, like 1 to 2 bars of counter side spin. But when I get in here close, like a short iron or a wedge, I never use that method. I never use the curl method or side spin. I like to play it a little bit more true and just let the ball do what it was, intending to do. And what I'll do is I'll just overcorrect. So what I was assuming for my shot, since it was, say, I was setting up at 90%, 85% of max distance, I was basically just playing it as is at 100, just in hopes that would be enough. I played it at max distance number. So, I tried to go out 6.5 rings there, which is basically playing it like it's at max wind adjustment, as kind of an overcorrection. Now, I didn't go enough there, and it probably has to do with, shooting to a lower elevation on top of that. Okay, so this is a hole that a lot of guys struggle with. One of the things that I wanted to mention about this is I typically go about 4-ish bars of backspin. I'm going to go just a little bit over that. And then on top of that, you're going to see me put the shot right over onto the green barely. And then I'm going to play my wind. I'm going to play, about 9 rings here. So you're going to see me pull straight down. There's 9 rings. And then on top of that, I'm going to curl and counter it back because it's pointed to the left. So you see how the wind's pointed to the left on this one? And again, like I was mentioning, I overcorrected the wind as well. And you're seeing there, I get the hole-in-one. So what I did was I like to play it, you know, pretty spot up, one ring per yard on this. But then I'll just do like a counter curl. And you saw how I told you how I like to do about 4 rings of backspin. I did almost, you know, a little bit closer to 4.5 because it was downwind. So I knew it was going to come in hotter. I could have even pulled back to 4.5 there, you know, but I didn't want to risk it coming up short just in case, because I didn't want to, you know, since there's a big backstop there. And, you know, of course you saw the pin got in the way. I knew it probably, you know, wouldn't have enough momentum to jump out of the hole with that little fraction that I used. But keep that in mind when you're doing your ring adjustments. And you saw what I did. I played, you know, 1 per ring, even though, you know, it's not at max club. You're shooting down to a lower elevation, so you have to add wind here. For example, if this would have been, wow, that was really good too. This might go in. We're going to have a playoff. Oh my God. Most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. I'm pretty sure it was a replay, but you're just seeing one of those things, you know. They give you an easy win like that, and they expect you to just do the world. They expect you to hold out. Well, that's kind of messed up of the game to do that. You know, they can't give you a more fair shot. It just basically assumes, you know, you can either beat this or you have to go back and, you know, rebuild your trophies up, waste more balls. So it's just one of those unfortunate things about the game. I feel like they shouldn't have it like that. But for that hole, you know, a lot of people tell me about, you know, their struggles with that hole. And I just want to bring up this point. Let's say, you know, that was pointed sideways, like 12 miles per hour. You know, I would probably go about 15 rings. I would go beyond the 12 that I was mentioning. And it has more to do about that correction of your ball trail, that shot correction of that ball trail post, you know, landing. That momentum from right to left or whichever way it's pointed, is just going to go beyond by an extra, at least like on a 12 win, probably 4 rings. So what I'll do is I'll line up to do, you know, like I'll play on purpose like 3 extra rings, and then I'll still just ever so slightly counter it back too, just to give it that little bit of extra counter curl to kind of help it realign back straight. Because that's what I like to see, is I like to see it, you know, not swinging in super hard like left to right. I like being able to give the shot a chance to take more of its natural line, which is like more straight towards the hole. So I'll do a counter curl. And let me talk about this drive real quick. I want to do, you know, about 5-6 rings. You're seeing right here, it's here. And I'm going to be putting on, you know, one of my best power balls here, because I'm not going to take this drive for granted. So I am, you know, giving this drive its much needed respect, because it is a very challenging drive, especially on that wind. That goes 10 times for that wind. That is a really hard wind. If you were to not use one of your best power balls here, you could be looking at you know, a lot of trouble for yourself. So I want you to, you know, do what you can to make that second hop be above the bunker. And in this case, it doesn't look like you can do that. But you know, you gotta really concentrate on this drive and try to keep, you know, all the momentum going the opposite of whatever the wind is. So you see how I was trying to counter the wind and I put right curl on it. Let's say the wind was flipped the other way, I'd do the opposite. I'd try to keep all the momentum going back to the left towards the bunker, because I know that it, you know, might end up in that right rough otherwise. So you got to keep that in mind always be thinking about which way the wind is pointing and how it's going to affect your ball. So same thing here. You're seeing me at min distance here. Now, typically I'll use some backspin, but I'm not going to do that this time because I'm into the wind. So what you're going to see is I'm going to start my correction here. And since this is into the wind, I'm not going to take off. But since this is an uphill shot, I don't need to play very many rings. I'm going to play 7. I'm going to guess and say 7. So there's 5-ish, 7-ish. And then I'm just going to ever so slightly also counter it back, just so it takes more of its natural line on top of that. Great ball's probably going to cost me, I think. Maybe not. Yep, it cost me. So there you're seeing something. So what is that? Whatever 10 divided by 7 is, that's whatever I did. Rings, like miles per hour per ring. That's how many. You'd probably usually play, well, on min club, you'd probably play right around 1.3, 1.2 something, 1.2 to 1.3 something when you're getting, like, I was probably at, 30% of min club, like, of max club, I mean, like 30% of that, which was getting close to min club. But since I was, adding a little bit of extra power because it was into the wind, it was going more towards like maybe 30-40% of max club. So what you were seeing there, we're going to get another shootout hole, I'm assuming, because that's coming up short. Yeah, so what you want to always think about for this hole is, always consider that wind, whatever way it's pointing. And keep in mind, we have that slope. It goes right to left on this shot. So what you saw me do is I did like a little counter curl. And what that does is it kind of makes the ball come in a little bit straighter. But even more so than that, it's kind of resisting the hill. So it's not really going to roll too much to the right when you put that right counter on. But if you did the opposite, then it would really start slinging down the hill. So you got to be careful with using your left curl on the holes that are sloped. Now let's see if we can't get another wind here. And this is kind of a clear sign for me that I'm watching a replay. Is as soon as the video, basically before even anything happens, it's already on the ball spin. So that's like, kind of the dead giveaway for me that, I'm playing a replay here. And again, I'm going to do more similar to what I just mentioned last time, which was I'm going to set up very similarly. You're seeing the wind's just pointing differently. It has a little bit more velocity going down towards the hole. Let's see what this guy does. Oh, that's going to probably stop there. So, 3 yards, I'm given plenty of opportunity right here to beat this guy. So I'm going to do more or less, kind of the same thing that we just talked about before. I'll usually do 4, but I'm going to do 4.5 because of the fact that it's downwind. And then I put my second hop right on the green, just barely on the green. And then you see how I have it just to the left of center. I'm okay with that. And then, I'm going to go these 11 rings, at least. So, I can be a little, cavalier with my adjustments. I want to go 11, 12 rings, somewhere in there. And on top of that, same thing. I'm going to do just slight curl, counter curl back because of the momentum of the ball. And it looks like this time I did a little bit of an over adjustment, but it doesn't matter. It's in here tight enough that, I got the win out of this. You saw it came up the hill. It had good speed. So I want you to keep that in mind when you're playing your shots. And now if this was into the wind, for example, I would probably go to driver. So I can't really tell you that, well, it depends on how into the wind it is. But let's say it's into the wind, I'm probably only going to use 3 backspin. So keep that in mind. You're going to go all the way down to 3, maybe 2.5. Now, as long as you can keep it on this side of the cliff with your ring adjustment, then I'll just do that like I was mentioning, like 2.5, like 2.5 bars of backspin. And then now the only thing that's going to differ is if the wind is pushing too strong that I have to start aiming off the cliff, then I'm not going to hit that shot. I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to go to the other side of the cliff and hit my driver and just use more backspin. Now, when I move to the driver shot, I'm going to use more, 5 to 6 rings of backspin. I really don't need full 6, it depends on how strong the wind is. But let's say, for example, your wind's like 15. You might not even need 5 bars. You might only need like 4.5. You just kind of, you're still trying to make it land on the first hill, but since it's so into the wind, and that wind's pushing back so strong, like it's going to change the way that your ball reacts when it lands from the ball guide. And it's very drastically, especially the more intense the wind gets. And I just want to stress that point. And that's kind of why I'm showing you all these shots that, I'm kind of countering the wind or whatever. I just want to, emphasize how important that is. And let me see if I can't go down here to a katana. I don't think I need, the crazy length here. You see the way that I have momentum here. Now, I like to play more, 1.5 at most per ring. So if you see I'm kind of in the center of the fairway here, I'll probably go over 5 full rings, which will be about, the 1.5 that I'm speaking of, and then just kind of hit it as is. And let's see if I can't get this going somewhere where we want it. It's just a little bit right, or a little bit left, sorry. I just needed a little bit more curl. Now, the reason I was taking off so much curl, so let's say, for example, the wind was going, the pointed the other way. I would definitely do full curl, and I would definitely cheat more of the right side of that fairway on my first bounce, too, because I'm going to need to full max everything. This is the one hole where I'd say, having a Thor can hurt you. I don't think it's going to be, the death of you, because, I can always put on a Kingmaker, restrict the wind, do full max curl with my Thor, plus put on full max side spin, and it'll never go in that bunker if I execute it just right. But, you just got to kind of push your limits a little bit. You see where I put it is kind of, where you need it. And you can win this hole outright quite a decent amount of time just by, executing your shots. In fact, you're going to see, more likely than not, I'm going to win this outright. So what I like to do in terms of, I believe it's top spin, that's what it is. I usually do 1 bar of top spin. I am going to do 2 bars of pop spin. And if you see where my bullseye is, it's a little bit out of the fairway. So I'm going to take off ever so slightly. And I'm looking out 6 rings, and I'm looking at that as my landing zone. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to counter curl it back, and I'm going to take off, like I said, just ever so slightly. So you're seeing me come back into the orange. And I was curling it to make sure it doesn't hit that tree. And again, I used 2 top spin instead of the 1 that I usually use. Wow, and I actually missed to the right. So you're seeing that I got it aggressive enough to where I actually got to the right of the hole, which is kind of hard to do, but it was also helped by the way that the wind was pointed. So let's say the wind was pointed the other way, then it would have been much harder to get that back to the hole. And you see, all I did there was I used my side spin to get it. I didn't use curl. You want to always be mindful of that tree that I just barreled it over. Cut it pretty close to. You always want to be mindful of that, and you don't want to put curl on this. You actually saw I did counter curl. I actually brought it back to the left a little bit to make it curl around the tree ever so slightly, because I could see I was getting kind of close to it. And like I said, you should be able to, win a decent amount of these. I would say 20% of the time. You should be able to, if you can just get your eagle, go for 5 for 5 on eagles here. I'm assuming that, your opponent should, more than likely, only get the eagle 4 out of 5 times. So this might be, that one instance where my opponent doesn't. So, and keep in mind, you're seeing here where this is straight into the wind. So think about the effect that that's going to have on his balls. Look how fast it's checking. See how slow that's coming in? It would have never came in that slow down the hill had it not been directly into the wind. So just think about the effect that that wind is putting on the ball for your own shots. And always be mindful of that. So you're seeing I got a Tour 10 gold. I'm going to keep going with this. I'm just going to empty this out. Did not get... I'm really just trying to force a couple good cards because I have problem. I haven't got Cataclysm in the shop on this account since October. I think they know I'm getting close, and they're just like, you know what? We're not going to give it to you. So the only way I've been getting cards has been like this. Is I'll get them to pop up in silver chat. Mostly, it's so funny because I get more good cards in Tour 11, Tour 10 silvers than I do the golds. I think the rate that you get pink cards is higher. Let's just say hypothetically, 20% of the time they give you a pink card, for example, in a silver chest, in one that's like Tour 10 or 11. I think in the gold it's like reduced. It's probably like 15% or like 10%. And I'm telling you, the rate that I get them in the silver for whatever reason is higher. And I don't think it's just me being lucky, because I've heard the same things from my friends. I think there's like a statistical reason for that, but I don't know why. I think it has to do with the way that they have, the probability set up for their chests. So what I like to do here is really nothing fancy. I'm not even going to add power on this shot. What I am going to do is I'm going to counter this wind, because I want to make sure that I'm in the fairway. But I'm not going for length here at all. I'm not going to add anything. The only thing I'm going to try to do is try to estimate how much that wind is pushing to the left. And I'm going to go, say, 3 rings. And then on top of those 3 rings that I'm just going to add counter. Of course, I got a great ball on top of that. But I don't think anything that I just did there is going to be enough to not be in the center of the fairway. And it's not. So what I like to try to do on this hole is I like to keep it short. And I like to keep it in that little groove where you can still see fairway. Now, I did go beyond that this time. It was really hard for me to estimate how much that ball was going to roll out. Typically, I would like to put backspin on that ball and keep it from being as deep as I just hit it there. But as you can see, I'm in the fairway. There's no real reason to complain about a fairway shot, especially in the terms of this game. Like, I feel like, I can still execute my shot. I just think, there's not as much as a safety net, even though I'm pretty sure, I'm not going to, overcorrect, that I'm going to hit the rough anyway. I just like, keeping it in that little narrow spot that I'm telling you about, just to groove it in. You're seeing, it's much easier to play out in here than it is to play right out in here. But in the grand scheme of things, like I'm mentioning here, I really don't think it's going to be, a big deal. So I'm kind of mid-club here. Maybe I'm going to play 1.5 per ring. You see, I'm trying to hit it on this surface here. And like I was mentioning before, I might just do like more of an overcorrection. So maybe I'll go 7 full rings here, for an example. So maybe I'll do this. So instead of doing like my counter curl, and it's because I like to be precise with where I'm putting my arrow. I like keeping it right in the center of the circle. So what you're seeing me do is I'll overplay the wind, and you can see that was clearly an overplay. And since the wind's right to left, it kind of brought it back towards the hole. I only missed by a little. It was very fractional. It was less than a ring. It was very close there. And like I said, I don't like doing the counter curl method here because I like making sure that I'm at 100%. When I'm in there that tight, I want to be very precise because I know I can make that shot. I know I can make that shot, you know, at a very high rate. So if I know that I can make it a lot of the time, I'm going to, you know, try to be as precise as possible to give myself the best chance to make it all the time. And in my opinion, when we're talking about, you know, the tighter clubs, like the shorter ones, you just want to be a little bit more mindful of your movements. And that's why I don't like to move it outside and put curl on it. Because what happens when you start to put curl on it is, you know, you're not 100% sure that you're not adding or subtracting power. So, in my opinion, that's less important when we're getting to the later clubs because you're not being as precise anyway. We're talking about like the snipers or the whatever. Let's see if we can't get a different wind this time. That'd be nice. Nope, downwind again. So they're going to run this pretty hard. Again, you're going to see me do, you know, same routine. Don't ask me why we've gotten this win 3 times in this. But again, you're going to see me, you know, I'm going to put it right on the short edge here. And I'm just going to overcorrect this. You're going to see me play the wind. And like I said before, you know, 12 rings isn't going to be enough. So I'm going to go, you know, 14 rings. Call it. This time I'm going to play it more spot up since I missed left last time, but I hit the great ball, so that's probably going to cost me. Yep. Just come down the hill. That's all I want. I'll take it. But notice if I didn't hit the great ball there, I would have been half as close. I would have been inside a yard, no question. And all in all, you know, that's a pretty solid shot. You don't think that you're going to lose too many shootouts, especially when you're not playing replays. So look, this guy's even going to 6 bars. I don't think 6 bars is a problem if you want to use this approach. Now, what I don't like about his approach is it's going to be more of a stop shot. His isn't going to utilize the hill. He might leave it short. Now, in the grand scheme of things, he's already seen me hit. He's seen me at 1.7. So, you know, I'm not sure that I'm not playing a replay, but I'm just, you know, I'm just trying to walk you through your strategy. If your opponent's already seen you hit, and you know, he sees you at 1.7, then, you know, he can hit more of a stop shot. Doesn't need to go for the hole in one anymore. But you're seeing he still got it to the hole. But I don't like bringing in that risk factor of whether or not is this going to just make it to the hole or is it going to come up short. I don't even like to consider that as an option. So that's why you're only seeing me use the 4.5, because I know that it's still probably not going to pop out of the hole. There's almost no scenario where it's going to be coming in too hot as long as I go enough rings. That's the only thing you could do is, you know, if you didn't go enough. So there, like I was just mentioning, you know, I was going real close down to min distance there on my shot. I was very close to min distance. And I still went, you know, 13, 14 rings there? Like somewhere in between 13 and 14 rings. And it was still past the hole. So that should just tell you, you know, that forward momentum, that little like springboard that you're seeing, you know, it just kind of shows you how, you know, prevalent it is in the game. on downwind versus into the wind. And like I was saying, had that wind been completely reversed and it would have been into my face, I wouldn't have taken the same approach at all. If, let's say, I can make an adjustment to where I can still use my wood without going into the cliff, then I would do, 2-3 rings of backspin. That's it. Somewhere between 2 and 3. And in the case that it's, straight in my face, then I'm going to pull out driver. But again, I'm not going to just, automatically slam the driver back. If I have Thor's hammer on, which has, 6.5, you don't have to use full backspin on most winds. Very few winds I'm going to use, 65, whatever my backspin is. Very few times I'm going to do that. I'm only going to do about 5.5. 6 total would be kind of the minimum case. And the wind would have to be like an 8 for me to even use that. So keep that in mind. What I like to do here, I like to get a little bit more aggressive. Not in terms of, bringing the cliff into play, but I just like to curl it around here, and I don't like to go super long like you just saw that guy do. So what I'll try to do is I'll just try to counter that wind here. See me go a little bit more aggressive towards the cliff, but I'm still keeping it short. So that way I've still got a nice plain view to the hole. And again, you're seeing this time it's a 9.3 and it's kind of virtually sideways on me. So one of the things that you'll see me do here is, like I've been stressing earlier, is, I'll do more of an overcorrection as opposed to try to counter this wind. But you have to keep in mind, you almost need like 3 extra rings, for example, to counter this kind of wind. That's a 10. First I want to see, how close am I to max? And, I'm kind of right in that same realm that I was in last time. And I think last time I tried to do like 9 rings on like a 9, or 8 rings on an 8, something like that. And it wasn't enough. So this time I'm going to do just a little bit more. See if I can't grind this a little bit. So here I'm going to go, there's my 5. I'm going to go at least another 5, maybe just a tad more. So a little bit of an overcorrection. Remember, you're hitting it to a lower elevation as well, so keep that in mind. And it's curling ever so slightly, but you can see that the way that it's coming in at an angle. So you got to be really careful with your, if you can get that speed down. You saw how mine was coming in real slow. I was giving myself the best chance to make an overcorrection, because if it comes in at just the right speed, it would still basically like stop on the cup. Because you saw I got right behind the hole. I'm basically right behind the hole in terms of from the fairway. So had that just stopped a little bit more right before it got past the hole, it might have just stopped on the hole, and I would have still made the shot. So that's only you can only kind of use that trick to kind of use the momentum of this. It's only if you're going the right way of the slope. So what you just saw me do is I had the slope on my shot, like it was a left to right slope plus left to right wind. So I was trying to overcorrect and just try to let the shape of the green as well bring my ball towards the hole, and hopefully, stop it and make it. Those can actually be kind of the trickiest, though, to actually get it on line. I think, when it's countering the slope a little bit better, it makes it easier to make, because then that way you can just kind of get it on line. And if the wind's countering it, it'll just kind of stay on line. It won't cut off like how you're seeing mine. Mine cuts so sharply to the right at the end. And when I'm into the wind here, I really don't know what to do here. The approach that I might use, which is kind of a tough one, is I might just utilize the backspin here and just be a little cautious. I think I can beat this guy because now you can't really use your shot trail as kind of a good indicator as to why I can beat this guy. I feel like the reason that I can beat him is because of, that post-shot momentum. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to counter this wind ever so slightly. And I'm going to play easily, 12 rings. Let's see if I did enough. It looks like I did. I'm hoping that the momentum, not really. I don't know if I'm inside his ball. I might not be. Nope. So, not the best shot selection there. I think I could have beat 8 or 9 with my long iron. But it would have been a hard shot. That was, a hard shot. I was kind of torn in between what I could do, because when you're into the wind like that, now if I would have landed it a little bit shorter, I think I would have got it to check up, but the land zone had to be perfect the way that I did that, and it wasn't quite. I didn't hit it enough on the face of the green there. If I would have landed 2 yards shorter, I bet you it would have been enough to secure the win there. Just needed 2 yards less. So I wouldn't say, bypass the shot I just did in general. Of course, only when it's straight into the wind would you even try to execute that, unless you have Guardian. So if I had Guardian and I would have used full backspin, the same shot I would have just hit would have just murdered that guy. If I would have hit that same shot, it would have been like 4 yards. So, but I don't recommend Guardian for this tour. But that hole is also on Tour 8. So I would definitely recommend Guardian for Tour 8. I think Guardian for Tour 8 is the #1 tour Guardian is the best club for. I was just recently playing 8 in that other video, and every single par 3 that I got to, there was a Guardian shot that I felt comfortable that with just a little bit of practice, like if I would have actually been, into the routine of playing that hole all the time, that I could have easily done that. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to visualize, about 9 rings from my bullseye. I'm going to add no power. That great ball's not going to help me, but hopefully it doesn't hurt me. What I was doing is I was using all my Kingmaker curl plus full curl, side spin plus curl, to just resist that wind. So I'm glad we got this wind, because I wanted to kind of just show you that, even with Thor, you're okay not having the curl on this tour. If you can do that shot with this hole, that's the only hole where you really need curl. This is the only one out of everything. It's the only one. So if you can pull off that shot with Thor, you can use Thor for this tour. In fact, Thor might actually be the club. It just depends on where your puck is. If our Thors were equal, so what was he, a puck 4 or puck 3? If I had a Thor 3 or a Thor 4, I think Thor is a better club than either of those, 3 or 4. And of course, Thor 5 obviously is going to be better than those. So, just something to keep in mind. Okay, so here you can see, about 6 rings is where the fairway is, short of. Now, what I usually do 1 ring, right? I'm going to do 3 because it's 12 in the face, so I need to add at least 2 extra rings. Might even just add just an extra, just to be on the safe side. And I have to go a little bit into power, not much, because I don't want it to land off the fairway. I do need to add something. So I'm going to go a little yellow here. And again, with my 3 or 4 rings, And that doesn't look like it's going to be enough, but it might roll into the fairway. Okay, so as long as you get to the fairway, you're good. Now, I didn't add enough power, so don't think about what I did with my spin was wrong. It's that I didn't add enough power. You saw the landing zone there. It wasn't deep enough in the fairway. But I just want you to know that all you have to do is get to that fairway. Where I am, I got the eagle. There's no question I got the eagle. So you only have to get to there. It's a very safe shot from there. It just kind of funnels to the hole from there. It'll be an under a ring correction that I need to do no matter which way the wind's pointing. Not going to matter. All you had to do is get it to the fairway. So I did the exact minimum that you could do. And that's kind of why I was, adding that little bit of power. That little bit of extra top spin. Because once you get here, you have ball guide that goes to the hole. Oh, sometimes. I don't know why it's doing that. It usually shows the whole way. Oh, jeez. Don't tell me I'm going to miss this. This is crazy. This is crazy. I cannot believe this. I'm supposed to do this every time. I think I'll still be able to get it. It might not be as guaranteed as I thought it was going to be. But again, I just have to ever so slightly pull this thing. Not very much. I am running out of time. Oh, come on. What just happened? Unbelievable. Did I get server lag? Like, how did that run out of time? It said 1 on my screen. Like, that is crazy. That is absolutely insane. Now, I'm supposed to have shot trail that whole way to the hole. I really don't know why it's not giving it to me. I've been here so many times, and I have no problems with this pitch. None. So I don't know what's just happening. But anyway, let's just get past it. Just try to make sure that I get to the shootout here. Not sure what's going on from this spot right now. I'm not used to this. It's supposed to give me the shot trail to the hole. Jesus, I'm not even going to make this shot. This is crazy. It's not even getting to the hole. It's crazy I lost this outright. That's just stupid. This is so frustrating for this video. The stupidest thing I ever saw just happened. You're supposed to have the ball trail there. I have it every time I play this hole. Every time. So I don't know what is going on to where I'm in this one little rut where it's not giving me the ball trail. But let's just keep going. Throwing away all these games makes no sense. I should have had that outright. I mean, my ball shouldn't have even been where it was. I added, I added at least 5 rings of power there. And it was an uphill shot. It should have been to the green. It shouldn't have landed that short with half power. With the half power that I added, it should have been, it should have had 10 rings of, correction over the rough. But anyway, it is what it is at this point. Not sure why that happened. No real explanation. Like I said, I should have the ball trail from there. Like literally, I have put it on that fringe and seen ball trail from the fringe all the way down to the hole. So the fact that I couldn't get the ball trail from from the fairway there. It just makes no sense to me. So let's see if I can't get this hole. I'm going to do a couple more holes for you guys. Hopefully we can get a couple more shootouts here. But I have kind of covered everything for this video. I've kind of discussed everything. We just haven't got all the shots. We haven't got all the shots that I would have liked to have gotten. And again, you know, I'm just trying to get it down there, grind it kind of in that zone that I like it in, where it kind of keeps short, doesn't get too aggressive down towards the end of the fairway. I just like getting it in here. And like I said before, you know, the easier wins, in my opinion, are going to be the right, the left. And of course, this is the second straight time in a row. It's because kind of the slope. Like when you have a wind that's kind of going down in the direction that the ball breaks, it just seems to break twice as much. It has more to do with, like, you know, the shot correction. It's just always easier to get it back online when you you know, have an opposite. When you have your wind opposite to the slope. But that's okay. I think I can get this one. Just haven't got it yet. That one popped over the hole. I do not recommend, you know, a backspin shot on anything with a slope like this. Very out of control shot. And just in my opinion, you know, that kind of overcomplicates the shot. Again, I'm kind of in the same zone that I've been in. I'm trying to be a little bit more careful with my adjustment this time, because I'm thinking that that might have been a contributing factor. Problem with, you know, Hornet and whatever, the rings are so small, it's really hard to be precise. So let's see. You know, 5 rings, 10 rings. We got a little bit more. See if I can't get this. Again, same miss. Same miss. Miss by a ring, or, you know, great ball. If I great ball it right, it goes in. So, not missing by much, but just enough to miss. So it's something to keep in mind for when you're doing your adjustments. Try to be as, you know, precise as possible, but at the same time, you know, when you're talking about needing to be, you know, within one ring, especially when your thing's so small, like the difference between making and missing is so small in this game that you know, sometimes you'll just get in this little rut where you can't make anything, and then there'll be times where I can't miss anything as well, because, you know, I have the method kind of down. It just doesn't always work out in my favor. So let's see what they give me here. I'm going to try to build up a couple trophies here. Should be able to get on a little bit of a win streak if they don't give me you know, a ridiculous shot. Now, when I have Kingmakers on, I don't really use curl, and this might be the only instance where I do like a little bit of curl, like this guy kind of did. Now, I don't like taking it down the bottom of the slope like his shot does, but his shot is going to turn out. I think it's going to come up a little short, not very much, but I think it'll be, you know, 1.5 yards, 2 something, 2.2, somewhere in there. Now, it's because his didn't have all the momentum that you want it to have on this hole. So what I like to do, first off, I like to play it higher up on the hill like this. And I like, you know, using the natural slope. And as you can see, the way that it's breaking in, I am not actually going to use my curl here because it's already breaking into the green. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to try to put it there, and then I'm going to play it. I like to play think I play 1.7 on this hole, give or take. 4 rings here. Nice safe adjustment. I am not going to curl this one. I just used all my side spin. I'll use all 6 bars. So let's say hypothetically, I didn't get all 6 bars on, then I'll use it. And like I said, I like using that hill to make the ball come down and roll more fluid. So it comes down towards the hole, has nice momentum, and ends up by the hole. So one of the mistakes that you can make, as you were kind of seeing his, it just kind of got caught up in the fringe a little bit. My ball never gets caught up in the fringe when I play it this method. So, no, it doesn't always win the match, but I think it's the best approach. And of course, I keep getting toppers. Do a couple more holes. I'm glad I was able to show you that hole. There's still a couple other shootouts that we haven't got to. And of course, a bunch of par 5s we haven't got to, par 4s. There's a lot of holes in this tour. And it's a shame that, you can't ever get, like a broad range of them in a short period of time. Sometimes they just give you, the same thing. You'll see it 3 times in the same 10-hole span. Sometimes it helps you, sometimes it hurts you. So I am at 1 hour and 12 minutes, okay. Getting there, and finally a new hole. And again, especially into the wind like this, I'm going to go, full max here. This is the one time that I feel like I'm kind of at a disadvantage. I'm probably not going to get it down as far as I want to. That's a little unfortunate. We'll see. You always want to leave that possibility of getting to the green in 2, just in case that wind, becomes favorable. And I'm right at the point, I'm a little short, I'm right at the point where you can start to, think about it. But I might just be a hair short. Just depends on like if I get a favorable wind, I'll do it. Because you can kind of use the hill on the right, on the left too, which I'll do sometimes. But it also depends on the way that the wind's pointed. So it's going to have to be like a right to left wind, or left to right wind, sorry. If the wind's not left to right and I can't make it up on the cliff from a second shot, then I don't even go over that way at all, unfortunately. I think I might just be short. A dead ball probably would have alleviated my problems. Like if I wanted to actually win this hole outright, as opposed to getting to a tiebreaker. And you're seeing, his is far shorter. He uses a navigator. That's what I would use if I didn't want to even attempt the green. I would just use a navigator on this hole. And you saw I got the wind, and I actually got it to a point to where I can actually hit it up onto the hill. So what you're going to see me do is I'm probably going to play this rough over here. Again, we're shooting to a higher elevation. The one thing that I have to, do is bail out left. I need to make sure that I don't miss right and hit the fairway. That's kind of key. One of the biggest keys to this shot, making sure you hit that rough. It looks like I did, but it looks like it skipped through anyway. I couldn't even stop it. Some of the guys that you'll see, they'll lay up even shorter than me. A different shot. I know you can do it. I know it can work. It's very dangerous. The way I've gotten it to work would be with, curl. But I've also had it happen to where it hops too hard, and then it goes from rough to fairway on the other side, and then keeps rolling off over the cliff. So it's a very dangerous shot. Extremely dangerous. So what I should have done is just a tad bit of backspin on mine, but not the end of the world. I can still technically, pitch this in. Great ball again. I've been great left every single time today. I think every time on this video I've been great left. So I'm just a hair off on my timing. It's just a tad bit slow for whatever reason. Just having a rough day. So we'll be going to another playoff hole, and maybe I'll just make this the last. Maybe I'll check out the next hole. If they give us a new one, I'll just say, you know what, I'll just extend it to a little bit more time. If they don't, then I'll just, go through it solo. I got to get these trophies back anyway. Plus, I want to get a couple more silver chests. I feel like I'm coming up on a platinum again pretty soon. So I just want to grind out some chests and get my next platinum as well. Or at least, a couple more golds. I just want to keep, getting the chance to get a couple more Cataclysm. That way, the one time if it does pop up in the shop, I actually am close enough to where I can level up. And the most, like I was saying, for whatever reason, silver 10, silver 11, those are the two most likely chests in the entire game. It seems to give me the Tour 7 Epics. It's probably the same rate as the King chests, but my opportunity at King chests are far fewer, so I don't even really consider that an option. I very rarely win my division, so I never get free ones. I have to basically, I would have to spend gems in the shop to get King's chests, so I virtually never do that. So let's go back to this hole. The shots on this hole are usually kind of very similar to either what he did, or it'll go past and to the left. Those are the two most common types that you see on this hole. What I like to do is, first I'm going to, just use a little bit of counter spin. No, I'm not going to. Never mind. I'm going to, try to keep it in this groove right here where it's going more towards the hole. Third hop's kind of right on the hole. And then, I need to play at least 5 rings, so I'll go beyond 5 here. It's going to swing it back to the left with the extra momentum. So I'm not going to, I just want it in the bulk of the green here. I want to make sure that I don't roll down the hill and lose this match. So I'm just playing it safe more than anything, playing it a little bit deep, just enough to win. So I'm just being a little cautious there. It's downhill. And I recommend, similar approach. I could have tightened that up a little bit and pulled it back. But before I was starting my adjustments, I could have pulled it back a little bit more. Man, no pink card there. And when you pull it back some, what you start bringing the bottom of the hill into, I just don't want to risk, running down that hill, especially when that guy already did that. So, I just play a little bit more cautious. So I want to, encourage you to do something similar. Like I think it's nice to go for the shot, but at times, especially on very touchy holes like that one, it's nice to just take the shot that you know that you can pull off. That's just going to put you right in that little window where you know that you can still win. And if let's just say hypothetically, I have my Goliath on, and I could have did it with even more backspin on that same spot, say 4.5 backspin where I was just at. It would have been no question. I would have been, 3 yards left. It would have just been safe. And the reason that it ends up left there is because of it was a right to left wind. So the wind just kind of pushed it back to the left. So, these are the types of things that you always have to constantly be thinking. So we have done this hole, but we really didn't get to see pitches on it. So I'm just going to go ahead. Yeah, we'll do this, and I'll end it after this hole. I'll end it after this one. Because last time we played it, you saw the guy, he pulled out a snowman, put it right on the green. I hit a Titan. It went in the right because I great ball shanked it, 2 bars, 2 rings. Missed my pitch. We didn't even get a shootout. So let's get to this hole. This is going to be a completely different way that I play it. I'm not going to need a Kingmaker for this. So you're going to see me take it off. I'm going to use more of a navigator. So we have very kind of similar winds. And I'm just going to try to size this up. Now, I know that, I can see 5 rings is on the fairway. So I'm going to keep that in mind here. And I'm going to basically say, I can go basically max. So I'm not going to quite go max because I want to, increase my accuracy a little bit. So I'm going to pull back just ever so slightly like this. And then just release. But, I can be for sure, since I had 5 rings there, I can go max power into the wind. And 5 rings is never going to be enough for an 8 wind. Like that, it's going to actually not be enough that I'm taking off there. Now, if it was downwind, I wouldn't use that same logic. But if it was downwind, I wouldn't be probably doing the skip shot. I would just be doing the power shot. But just keep that in mind. When you're hitting straight into the wind, let's just say hypothetically, I would normally go 1.7 per ring. But when I'm going full power like that, at most, it's going to be 1.5, but it's probably playing more like 1.3 per ring. So even at 1.5, the full bullseye is only 7.5 miles per hour. So that's not enough that an 8 wind wouldn't pull it back farther than that. So you know that you're definitely safe. Definitely, 100% certainty safe. Now, I'm a little bit towards min club. What I like to do on this one is I like to kind of skip it over. I'm not really going to use my backspin here because of the fact that it's into the wind. So I'm going to ever so slightly just try to ease it back. I'm going to play about 1.5 per ring. So I'll probably go 5 rings here. Kind of put it right here. Go the 5. Call it a day. Let's try this. Perfect ball. Off the fringe, skip. It's running to the hole. Just off the edge. Just barely. Now, under normal circumstances, I might put backspin. First off, I wanted to make sure, that I'm hitting the right surface. So I'm aiming at the fringe. I want to make sure it lands on the fringe. And the way that the shot was lining up on the fringe, if I pull back backspin on that, it might land on the top of that hill. I wanted to avoid hitting that hill because it just looks like a little funky kind of landing zone. So I try to avoid those. And, I only missed by, just outside a cup there. Maybe even inside a cup. So, if I great balled it left, for example, it might have went in. Like that's the difference between making and missing. But I don't look at it like that. I look at it more as, I over-adjusted by ever so slightly. I shouldn't have quite adjusted that much. And check this out. We got a wind where we can play this. Now, like I just mentioned before, The wind that she just did, it was probably as much backspin as I would ever use here. I probably wouldn't even use that much, to be honest with you. Now she's going to have to go into power, but you have to watch out how much power you go into, because it'll push you down into that cliff if you go too much. So just watching this shot, it's going to be to the left. Not very hard to beat. I'm going to show you kind of a foolproof plan for this. You know, beating 5 yards isn't going to be tricky here. I'm going to use my my counter spin that I was talking about previously. I'm going to do kind of like this. Just counter it back to the right. And again, I'm only using 2 bars of backspin, and I'm going to put the shot past the hole and to the right like this. And I'm going to do my adjustment from here. And again, it's probably a 15-ish ring adjustment here. So here's this, and look, I'm going into power. I'm going to start needing power myself. There's 15 rings. And as you're seeing, it's hopping on the green. It's just, 1 ring too little. But overall, not bad. It's not bad. So just keep that in mind. You have to do some overcorrection, and more so than anything, it has to do with, well, first off, I was at max club. So keep that in mind. I'm pushing max club there. So I'm usually not pushing max club. I'm usually like mid club. So typically when you're pushing max, you have to go even more. And you're seeing, I went about, 15 rings on that 12 something. And like I mentioned, it was still at least a ring short. Plus, I put 2 bars of side spin. So, it's like 5 rings. You need to go almost 20 rings if you wanted to actually legitimately, about a 20 ring adjustment there would put you in the ballpark if you wanted to do no counter, none of that. But I like to counter it just to get the more natural line coming back to where it'll, go straight up and down, as opposed to, swinging in hard right to left. So what you saw me do there is I countered with 2.5, just to kind of, just level it out ever so slightly. I knew it wasn't going to be enough. It's probably, on that wind, you probably need 4 to actually straighten it out total. So, 12 some wind, you're probably looking at, 4 side spin is what you would need to do to just kind of straight up play it. And then you'd still have to go the 15 rings, because you got to do a little bit of that overplaying that I was mentioning, because it's a downhill shot. So, consider a 12 wind, 15-ish rings, plus some side spin just to kind of counter it. Kind of puts you kind of spot on, more or less. I think a lot of guys, that hole hurts them because they're not thinking that. They're thinking ring system. So what they're doing is they're using the ring system there. And they're saying, oh, let me just go 13 rings, la-di-da-da-da. And then you just see, like, she hits her shot, or he hits his shot, whoever. I don't know if that was actually who it was, but... you saw there were still five yards left. So what does that tell you? They needed to go 5 more rings, essentially. They needed to go 18 rings there for that shot, if they were going to hit that same shot. So use that as a guide. Hopefully you find this video useful. I am probably going to keep the other one up just as a supplemental video to this, even though the audio is screwed up. So if you stumble upon that video, just feel free to come to this one. It's kind of the same discussion, just a little bit different perspective of holes. Maybe just turn the sound off on that other video. So good luck with your Tour 10. More importantly, good luck with your wind corrections, trying to decipher what all needs to be done. A lot of these techniques that I'm talking about are very advanced techniques. I really, encourage you to get the ring system down first, and then kind of come to this video later and maybe, you know, it'll just all start to click for you. And that's what it's going to take for you to get to that, 5170 trophies, if that's what you're looking to do. So good luck with everything. If you have any other questions, feel free to post them on the video. And if you haven't subscribed already, feel free to do that. Any other thing that you guys need, just let me know. Thanks. Good luck out there.